In this quick tip, I'll demonstrate a workaround for those wanting to import MIDI from an external sequencer. If you find the clip useful, hit like, subscribe, and if you're on Instagram, drop by for a look at TONELAB. For best viewing, I recommend watching this in full screen, preferably on a larger display such as a laptop, etc. Put the clip into full screen mode and set the resolution to 1080p via the settings widget down on the bottom right. So here's a trick you can do to record parts into your MPC on any particular sequence on any particular MIDI track. And this will come in handy if you're struggling to import MIDI files, or if you just want to record parts from an older sequencer that may not have an export function or compatible one. First, connect a MIDI cable from the MIDI output of your external sequencer or MIDI interface, and connect it to either MIDI input on your MPC. I'll connect mine to MIDI port 1. Now configure your DAW or external sequencer to output a MIDI clock. Set your MPC to sync from an external MIDI clock by hitting Menu, then change your sync setting to MIDI clock. If you prefer, you can record multiple MIDI tracks simultaneously. To do that, visit Preferences, then Sequencer, and make sure your record arm is set to multi. Now you'll need to configure the MIDI channels in your MPC to reflect those of the tracks in your DAW or external sequencer. Create however many MIDI tracks you need by selecting the MIDI track type and assigning a MIDI port and channel for each individual track. Then visit the track view by holding down Shift and pressing main screen. Here you get a detailed view of the MIDI inputs and outputs for each track. So from here, configure your MIDI ports and input channels to capture whichever channels your external sequencer is sending MIDI out from. Once you've configured your tracks accordingly, enable the record arm for each particular track you intend to record on. And I should probably mention, if your MPC's loop is on, it will cycle around to the predefined length of bars displayed here, which could make a mess of things. So if the parts you're trying to record are longer than the amount of bars displayed here, then you should disable the loop feature. But the good thing is, the MPC will write a new length of bars based on the duration of the new recording. So you can either leave loop off to record an undefined amount of bars, 999 being the maximum, or you can define a specific amount of bars by using the data wheel. Once you've considered and attended to the length of bars you may or may not need, press record. Alternatively, you can press overdub if you'd like to merge all those external tracks with your pre-existing MIDI parts. So let's give this a shot. I've got some random MIDI notes inside these Logic clips here. I'll hit the MPC's record button and press play on the DAW. And now the MPC is being guided by the external clock and recording the incoming MIDI parts onto separate tracks. Good, we're all done. Now you can switch your MPC back to the internal clock via the menu button. And that's it. You should now find the relative tracks contain MIDI information from your external sequencer. And you can confirm this by holding down Shift and List Edit, and I'll change the track. Yep, they also contain MIDI notes. A couple of things to watch out for. Your quantize setting will influence whatever the MPC records, just as if you were playing it yourself. So set your quantize amount appropriately, or switch it off if you don't need it. I should also mention, be mindful of the other tracks you armed for record. If you're not planning to do any other multi-track recording, then unarm them from record. If you found the clip useful, hit like, subscribe. Those of you on Instagram, come and take a look at TONELAB. And check out the parent YouTube channel by searching @TONELAB for deep dive tutorials on drum machines and synthesizers. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.